basically what we have going on, this is the pre-market data, and I want to just show you guys, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, because what we just saw was the market starting to propel back upwards. So here was your pre-market, right? Initially, we were down sharply, we rallied back, we started to fall back down, and then look at this green intraday. This is a 10-minute candle. Now, what ended up happening here is a Fed president named Waller, last name Waller, came out and started talking a little dovishly. All right, now, again, I didn't listen into what he says. To be honest, I don't care. What tells me the keys here is the reaction. It's always in the price action. Price action is truth. Interpretation can be different. Always remember that. All right, so the pop right here is taking us. We're still slightly negative on the day in the futures before the S&P opens. But I did want to bring this to your attention, and I want to show you why the markets are rallying. So all you have to do here is flip over to the US dollar. Here's the US dollar chart. And let's take a look. Basically, look at what happened. As we were rallying up on the dollar, right? So as we were getting into the action this morning before this Fed president spoke, we were seeing the markets kind of, or the dollar starting to rally higher. And we know that markets go inverse to the dollar. So when the dollar moves up, U.S. markets, or generally the stock market, moves down. What happened was we basically had this pivot top and a decline in the US dollar. And again, that's the key here, folks, is that when we go back to the S&P chart, that is exactly what ended up flipping here, right? Look at this, and we're even starting to creep up a little bit more. Now, again, we're still slightly negative on the day, but any sort of Fed chatter, and notice this is the first day back from a 3-day weekend here in the US, and all of a sudden, the Fed is coming out. And you have to wonder this, and I'm just going to throw this out there, guys. Does the Fed know more than we do? Probably. Are they seeing things in the underbelly of the economy? Because I'm the first one to say that I don't think when a Fed president talks that it's just random. I don't think they're just spewing their random thoughts. I truly believe that there was a game plan here, a game plan that essentially had this Fed president on CNBC this morning talking to Steve Leisman and going over the key points that the Fed wanted to get across. What does that mean? It means the likelihood of a rate hike has now diminished and the markets are responding in kind, at least for now. Now, I'm in the camp that eventually what we're going to see is the economy is going to fall off a cliff. Now, I don't think we're going into a Great Depression yet. I think that's more for the 100-year cycle with 1929, if we go back there. We know the 100-year cycle, by the way, interesting fact, the Spanish flu, 1918, right in that vicinity. We know in 2020, about 100 years later, we had COVID. So there is something to be said for the 100-year cycle. And ultimately, I do think that later on this decade, there will be hell to pay from the massive amounts of debt that the globe is taking on. Just nonstop debt, debt, debt. Eventually, you got to pay the piper. All right. So that's something I wanted to show you guys. Again, just going back to the US dollar here. Look at the US dollar decline. Now, let's quickly flip over to a larger time frame. And I want to show you this, guys, because this is pretty cool. All right. So we talk about how the technicals of the chart lead the chart and the price action. And what I find fascinating about this is we have a trend line here, right? So let's take a look at this. In fact, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit here and kind of show you. So if we go here and I zoom out quite a ways, this trend line goes all the way back here, and then we cut right through this point here, right? So right here, cuts right through here and right to that top, and look at what we just pierced. And this is today, guys. This is today that we pierced that trend line. Now, in addition, what's fascinating about it, let me erase those lines and move back to this, is that if we zoom in, it wasn't just a trend line hit, right? If we zoom in here, what do we see on the chart? And again, folks, for those of you that are technically savvy, what do we have here? We have a pivot high and a pivot high right here. We draw a trend line through them. That's a double top. So short-term double top, also a hit of the trend line right here, right here, right here. And it makes sense why the dollar might be ready to pull back. Now, this is the amazing thing about charts, and this is what gets me up every morning and excited to rip it up and crush it with you guys, crush it with my traders, is that price action, you'll hear this sometimes, not a lot of people talk about this, but charts can lead the news, right? So again, think about this. Was it the chicken or the egg, right? Was it the fact that the dollar was hitting a double top into this trend line, so two factors, after a strong extended move up that caused this pullback? Or was it the Fed Waller's comments that caused it? And the question is, again, what's amazing is that the charts, if you're just a chartist, let's just talk plain and simple. Let's say you shut off the news. And I know traders that do this, guys. I pay attention to the news a little bit because it's my job to keep you informed. But for the most part, you could shut the news off and just follow the charts. And you would have said, oh, look, the dollar's hitting this trend line and this double top. Let me short the dollar. And right away, you'd be correct today based on what Fed Waller said just a little while ago with the dollar declining. So, I mean, these are the types of things that I think are amazing, and you'll see it over and over again in the charts, how in a way, the charts in a weird way predict that something is going to happen that will result in the move that the chart is telling you it's going to make.